Isang mapagpalang araw po sa ating lahat at pag-uusapan naman po natin ang tungkol po sa Biblia. Ito pong pag-uusapan po natin ay may mga principles po tayo na pwede nating i-consider. So pag-uusapan natin ang walk through the Bible. Walk through the Bible, take a walk, change the world. Marami po tayong mga makukuhang moral lessons or principles patungkol po sa Biblia. So pag-uusapan natin ang salita ng Diyos at kung ano ang matutunan po natin at kung ano ang pwedeng mai-apply sa ating pang-araw-araw na pamumuhay. So pag-usapan natin ang buhay ni David at ni Samuel. So ano ba ang matutunan natin sa kanilang buhay? So bilang principles, ulitin ko po, ay sa Biblia marami po tayong matutunang principles sa mga Bible character katulad ni David at ni Samuel. So image versus character. Image versus character. So bago po natin pag-uusapan, huwag niyo pong kalimutan na mag-like, subscribe at mag-share sa ating lesson. Pwede pong makakatulong po tayo sa ating mga kapatid at kaibigan. At salamat din sa ating mga subscriber at mga viewers po. Maraming salamat. Pag-uusapan po natin ang image versus character. Ito po ay sa buhay ni David at ni Samuel. So pag-uusapan po natin, start na po tayo. In 1 Samuel chapter 8 verses 4 to 9, ito po yung background. Verse 4. So all the elders of Israel gathered together and came to Samuel at Ramah. They said to him, "You are old, and your sons do not walk in your ways. Now appoint a king to lead us, such as all the other nations have." Request ng bayang Israel po ito, mga kapatid. Request ng bayang Israel dahil nga sa pagkakaalam po nila ay walang naglilid sa kanila or nangunguna. So katulad ng ibang bansa, katulad ng ibang nations, ay dapat mayroon po silang hari at ito po ay ni-request nila kay Propeta Samuel. And then verse 6 to 7, but when they said, "Give us a king to lead us," this displeased Samuel, so he prayed to the Lord. And the Lord told him, "Listen to all that the people are saying to you. It is not you they have rejected, but they have rejected me as their king." Yun po ang sinabi, ang sagot ng ating Panginoon when God listened to all that people, kung ano yung ni-request ng bayang Israel kay Samuel. So si Samuel naman ay ayon sa kanilang request ay nanalangin sa ating Panginoon at ang sabi nga ng Panginoon, hindi ikaw ang ni-reject kundi ako bilang kanilang hari. Yun po ang sinagot ng ating Panginoon kay Samuel. So talagang ang desire ng bayang Israel sa time na ito ay magkaroon sila ng hari. So verses 8 to 9, as they have done from the day I brought them up out of Egypt until this day, forsaking me and serving other gods, so they are doing to you. Now, listen to them, but warn them solemnly, and let them know what the king who will reign over them will do. Ito po yung sinasabi niya. As they have done from the day I brought them up out of Egypt until this day. So, makikita po natin, and now listen to them. Sagot ng ating Panginoon kay Samuel, but warn them solemnly and let them know what the king who will reign over them will do. Dahil nga sa nireject nila ang Panginoon at naghanap sila ng maghahari sa kanila, at ito naman ang sinabi ng Panginoon kay Propeta Samuel na pakinggan niyo sila. Pakinggan mo na lang ang bayang Israel, pero paalalahanan mo. Yan. Kung sino ang maghahari sa kanila. Kung sino ang maghahari sa kanila. So yun po yung sinabi ng ating Panginoon kay Propeta Samuel nung siya'y nananalangin. So the people asked Samuel to appoint a king. Request ng bayang Israel kay Samuel na mag-appoint si Samuel ng maghahari sa kanila, as they could be like all other nations. So ibig sabihin ay maging katulad sila ng ibang bansa na mayroong maghahari, instead na napakaganda nga kung na-appreciate nila na ang Panginoon ay naghahari sa kanila. Pero gusto nila na may maghahari katulad ng ibang nation. So hindi sila yung talagang original. Kung pag-aralan natin ang senaryo or ang history, talagang itong Israel ay, ang bayang Israel, katulad ng ibang nation, ay dapat mayroon din silang hari. Ayun po ay nag-request sila kay Propeta Samuel. At abangan po natin, alamin natin kung ito ba ay natuloy, kung ang kanilang request ay granted. So the people rejected God's leadership in favor of a man they could see and touch. So ganun po yung idea sa binasa po natin kanina. The people or the people Israel rejected God's leadership in favor of a man they could see and touch. Kasi gusto nila na makita yung leader nila, makita nila ang king at mahawakan or matouch po nila. So yun po ang gusto ng bayang Israel sa leadership. Na ang Panginoon ay hindi nga nila nakikita, kaya katulad ng ibang bansa, katulad ng ibang nation, ay dapat mayroong mag-lead sa kanila. Kaya dito, hindi sila aware na nireject nila ang leadership ng ating Panginoon in favor of a man they could see and touch. So in verse 21, 1 Samuel chapter 10, 21 to 24, verse 21, then he brought forward the tribe of Benjamin, clan by clan, and Matris clan was chosen. Finally, Saul, son of Kish, was chosen. But when they looked for him, he was not to be found. So dito po ang ginawa ni Samuel, talagang nag-utos siya, at ito nga na sa tribe of Benjamin natin makikita itong napiling hari. Kaso lang, but when they looked for him, he was not to be found. Kaya si Saul ang napili from this tribe, si Saul. Pero nung kanilang hanapin, kanilang tignan, nasaan ba ang napili nilang hari? Nasaan ba itong Saul na maghahari sa kanila? They looked for him, he was not to be found. Wala naman doon kung ito ang maghahari. Ito po yung kanilang napili, pero wala naman doon kung kailangan nila. Wala naman doon sa time na mayroon silang pangangailangan. So dito pa lang ay sa time pa na i-orient or maipakilala. Ayan. So, wala doon si Saul na yun po ang maghahari sa bayang Israel ayon sa kanilang napili. Tuloy pa natin na pag-uusapan ang mga bagay na ito para mas lalong makakuha tayo ng mga lesson, makakuha tayo ng mga principles sa buhay po nila. Verse 22 to 23 in 1 Samuel chapter 10. So they inquired further of the Lord, has the man come here yet? And the Lord said, yes, he has hidden himself among the baggage. They ran and brought him out, and as he stood among the people, he was a head taller than any of the others. So ito po makikita natin, dahil nga napili sa tribe ni Benjamin, si Saul ay napili po na mag-lead sa kanila, pero ito po ang nangyayari. Nagtatago po ito si Saul sa mga baggage, and they ran and brought him out. Okay, ang ginawa naman ng mga tao, talagang idinala siya, at nung nakasama siya sa group of people, ay talagang kitang-kita yung kanyang laki or tangkad. Kasi pag naisama siya sa crowd, siya ay agad-agad nakikita. So ito po ang nagustuhan nila at pinili. Sabi, they ran and brought him out, and as he stood among the people, he was a head taller than any of others. Now, verse 24, Samuel said to all the people, do you see the man the Lord has chosen? There is no one like him among all the people. Then the people shouted, long live the king! Long live the king! So, ito po yung makikita natin. Gusto ng karamihan, gusto ng bayang Israel. Dahil nga ito si Saul ay kakaiba po. There's no one like him among all the people. Kung i-compare natin physically, ito si Saul ay hinwala po siyang katulad sa ibang tao. So at siya po ang pinili. So Saul was anointed as Israel's first king. Saul was anointed as Israel's first king. Saul was physically impressive. Saul was physically impressive but spiritually weak. Yun po ang image ni Saul. Inanoint siya, pinili siya bilang hari, unang hari sa bayang Israel. Pero ito pa ang isa pang description ni Saul. He was physically impressive but spiritually weak. Yun naman po ang kaniyang description. Kung pag-aaralan natin, physically talagang makikita mo siya na talagang makakatulong dahil kakaiba, pero spiritually mahina po siya. Possible, physically talagang matapang or strong, malakas, ganun po. Pero spiritually po, pag-uusapan natin, siya po ay mahina. Ito si Saul. In 1 Samuel 13 to 14, you acted foolishly, Samuel said. You have not kept the command the Lord your God gave you. If you had, he would have established your kingdom over Israel's for all the time. Ito po yung sinabi ni Samuel. You have not kept the commands of the Lord. So, sa madaling salita, ang napiling hari ay talagang hindi akma ang kanyang desire or kanyang mga move or plan sa kagustuhan ng ating Panginoon. So dapat ang hari na napili ay supposed to be depende sa plan ng ating Panginoon. Pero si Saul ay kakaiba po. Hindi siya talagang nagtiwala sa ating Panginoon. Kaya nagdedesisyon siya na wala sa plano. Wala sa plano ng Diyos. Let's continue in verse 14. But now your kingdom will not endure. The Lord has sought out a man after his own heart and appointed him leader of his people because you have not kept the Lord's command. Kaya ang nangyari po, ang Panginoon na ang talagang naghahanap dito kung sino ang maghahari. So, nasubukan na ng mga tao ang pinili nilang hari kung talagang naghahari ba sa kanila. Kaya sa puntong ito, ang Panginoon ang naghanap o pumili kung sino yung tao na kanyang i-appoint bilang leader sa bayang Israel. Because sabi niya to, but now your kingdom will not endure. The Lord has sought out a man after his own heart and appointed him leader of his people. So God eventually rejected Saul as king. Mismo ang Panginoon ang nag-reject kay Saul as king sa bayang Israel. So and send Samuel to search for a new king with a heart like God's. Ito po ang nang desisyon ng ating Panginoon dahil nga si King Saul ay hindi sumunod sa plano ng Panginoon, plano ng ating Panginoon, kaya God eventually rejected Saul as king of Israel. And God sent Samuel to search for a new king with what? A heart like God's. So yun po ang ginawa ni Samuel nung siya'y inutusan. In 1 Samuel 16, 6-7, when they arrived, Samuel saw Eliab and thought, surely the Lord's anointed stands here before the Lord. But the Lord said to Samuel, do not consider his appearance or his height, for I have rejected him. Dito po napakaganda yung sinabi ng Panginoon din kay Samuel. Kahit si Samuel din ay tinitingnan din niya ang appearance. So ang qualification talaga na nakikita ni Samuel din bilang tao, ang qualification ay iba. Ang tinitignan din niya yung appearance. Pero ang sabi ng Panginoon, do not consider his appearance or his height, for I have rejected him. Ayan. So the Lord does not look at the things man looks at. Kakaiba po. Kaya si Samuel, ang tinitignan din niya yung appearance, outward appearance. Kasi ganito nga, ang tao looks at the outward appearance, but the Lord looks at the heart. Kaya nga napili si Saul bilang hari dahil nga sa appearance. Pero hindi po yan ang talagang kinonsider ng ating Panginoon. Ang sabi ng Panginoon dito, ang tinitignan niya ay ang puso. Yan. So Samuel almost chose the wrong king because he was focused on the wrong qualities. So makikita natin dito si Samuel almost talagang mali ang kanyang mapili o mapipiling hari dahil nakapokus siya doon sa maling quality. Okay? Samuel focus on the wrong qualities. So halos magkakamali siya kung sino ang maghahari sa bayang Israel. God warned Samuel not to consider the person's appearance but his heart. Yun ang sinabi ng ating Panginoon kay Propeta Samuel. Ito yung warning ng ating Panginoon not to consider the person's appearance but his heart. Siyempre, ang tao ang tinitingnan lagi appearance, yung outward appearance, pero ang Panginoon, ang tinitignan naman niya, ang puso. Kaya ito yung sinabi ng Diyos kay Samuel na i-consider niya hindi yung appearance kundi ang puso ng magiging hari. Even today, people value image, but God values character. Today, katulad ni Samuel, sa kapanahonan noon, they value the image. Yun po ang tinitignan, the image. But God values what? The character. Hindi po image ang pinag-uusapan dito. Katulad ng nangyari sa pagpili ng maghahari sa bayang Israel, even Samuel the prophets almost choose the wrong person. Ang Panginoon naman ay nag-warning kay Samuel na huwag mong i-consider yung kanyang outward appearance but his heart. Kaya people value image but God values character. 1 Samuel chapter 16, 10 to 13. Verse 10. Jesse had 7 of his sons pass before Samuel, but Samuel said to him, "The Lord has not chosen these." So he asked Jesse, "Are these all the sons you have?" So dito po ay pinuntahan ni Propeta Samuel ang mga anak ni Jesse at ipresent ni Jesse yung kanyang mga anak pero may kulang. Nagtatanong si Samuel kung ito ba yung lahat mong mga anak? Okay, so yun po ang tanong. And then verse next, there is still the youngest. So sabi ni Jesse, hindi kasi niya isinama doon na i-present sa harapan ni Samuel, hindi lahat. Kaya tinanong nga ni Samuel kung ito ba lahat ang iyong anak. Sabi naman ni Jesse, mayroon pa yung youngest. But he is rending the sheep. So yun po yung sinasabi ni Jesse. And Samuel said, "Send for him. We will not sit down until he arrives." So yun po ang sinabi ni Samuel. Kailangang nandito siya. Yan, papuntahin nyo at dapat nandito siya. Hindi tayo kung sabihin gagawa ng anuman o hindi tayo upo kung hindi siya darating. O hindi tayo magdedesisyon kung wala pa siya. So parang ganun po ang ginawa ni Samuel. Kaya sa verse 12, so he sent and had him brought in. He was ruddy, with a fine appearance and handsome features. Then the Lord said, "Rise and anoint him. He is the one." So yung youngest na anak ni Jesse, yun po ang pinili ng ating Panginoon. At sinabi niya kay Samuel, "Rise and anoint him. He is the one." Siya yung pinili, yung youngest na anak ni Jesse. Siya po ang napili na maghahari sa bayang Israel. Verse 13. So Samuel took the horn of oil and anointed him in the presence of his brothers. And from that day on, the Spirit of the Lord came upon David in power. And Samuel then went to Ramah. So, si David ang napili o pinili na o napili ng ating Panginoon na maghahari sa bayang Israel. Ayan. Ang Panginoon ang pumili na kung sino ang maghahari sa bayang Israel. So even GC, his father, David's father overlooked David as a potential king. Oh. Kasi ang tinitingnan din ng kanyang ama ay ang appearance or ang image, hindi yung puso. Kaya David's father overlooked David as a potential king. Na siya pala ang potential na maghahari sa bayang Israel. Ayan. But God told Samuel that David was the one. Ayan. Ang Panginoon na mismo nagsabi, siya na ang maghahari sa bayang Israel. Kahit na overlook kahit mga kapatid na overlook siya, kanyang ama, even Samuel, ay na-overlook siya na siya ang potential na hari. Pero sabi ng Panginoon, siya, that he was the one. O siya yung maghahari sa bayang Israel. In 1 Corinthians 1:26 to 29, brothers, think of what you were when you were called. Not many of you were wise by human standards. Not many were influential. Not many were of noble birth. Verse 27, but God chose the foolish things of the world to shame the wise. God chose the weak things of the world to shame the strong. Ganda ng sinasabi ng ating Panginoon. Kung papaano siya pumili. Pero mayroong purpose kung bakit ang Panginoon ay pinili niya si David. Mayroon siyang purpose. Katulad nga na nabanggit dito po sa 1 Corinthians. God chose the foolish things of the world to shame the wise. And God chose the weak things of the world to shame the strong. Verse 28, He chose the lowly things of this world and the despised things and the things that are not to nullify the things that are. Verse 29, so that no one may boast before Him. God often chooses to qualify the called rather than call the qualified. See, makikita natin. Pero ang tao, tatawagan niya kung sino yung qualified. Sino yung qualified, yun yung pipiliin. Pero iba ang Panginoon. God often chooses to qualify the called rather than call the qualified. In Psalm 78, 70 to 72, He chose David, His servant, and took him from the sheep pens, from tending the sheep. He brought him to be the shepherd of His people, Jacob of Israel, His inheritance. Ganun po ang ginawa ng Panginoon, na siya, He was tending His sheep, pero later on, siya naman ay naging shepherd of His people, Israel. Psalm 78, 70 to 72, and David shepherded them with integrity of heart. With skillful hands, he led them. So yun po ang experience ni David. David shepherded them, ang bayang Israel, with integrity of heart. So ganun po ang leadership ni David sa bayang Israel. Kaya more than anything else, David was a shepherd who led God's people with a heart of integrity and hands of skill. David was a shepherd who led God's people with a heart of integrity and hands of skill. So the big question, how did God transform a young shepherd boy into the greatest king Israel ever had? Again, how did God transform a young shepherd boy into the greatest king Israel ever had? So the answer is crucible, a vessel used for melting, a substance that requires high degree of heat. A severe test. Number two, a severe test, a place or situation in which concentrated forces interact to cause change or development. James 1 2, another principle from this book. Consider it pure joy, my brothers, whenever you face trials of many kinds, because you know that the testing of your faith develops perseverance. Perseverance must finish its work so that you may be mature and complete, not lacking anything. If any of you lacks wisdom, he should ask God, who gives generously to all without finding fault, and it will be given to him. God has chosen to use trials to develop our character. God has chosen to use trials to develop our character, and we can choose whether to resist or embrace God's process. So we can choose whether to resist or embrace God's process. So ito po yung uh, lesson from the life of David and Samuel, image versus character. At sana ay nakakatulong po ang ating ah, pag-aaral po regarding po dito. Katulad ng nabanggit po natin ay pwede nating i-share, pwede nating ah, gamitin bilang tools sa ating pag-aaral. Kaya subaybayan lang po natin ang iba pang mga pag-aaralan po natin at alamin pa po natin ang ibang mga lessons na pwedeng makakatulong sa atin. Ulitin ko po, marami po tayong mga matutunan, mga principles from the Bible, from Genesis to Revelation. Maraming salamat and God bless.